right, welcome back to another episode of The Water Guy. You've got Paul here. I'm your Connecticut Advanced Water Systems water guy here, right here in Richmond, Virginia. And we've got special guests in the studio today. Go ahead, do your introduction.
This is Mahad Moose from Connecticut Advanced
Well, which
Water
is it,
Systems.
Mahad or Moose?
Just go with Moose. Go with Moose. That's my pseudonym.
Yeah, you're Moose. All right, we got Moose.
And I'm Ethan. I've been graciously hired by Paul as a freelance audio engineer to take care of all of his podcasting needs.
Yes, we have grown from the little basement of the local radio station up to now we're all set up here in the office over by the Richmond airport, and we've got all the high tech stuff here.
All the doodads.
All the doodads. Yeah. But so Ethan has been part of this process since the third episode.
Second.
Was it I think after the second episode, that's when you took pity on me because I was doing this solo, and it was just an hour of me talking to myself.
Yeah, the first episode, I was like, I think I need to help this guy out.
Maybe it was the second one.
It was the second,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good because the first one seemed like it was multiple episodes long to me. So I'm glad you jumped in right away. But we're on 23.
Yeah. I know so much about water and water treatment now.
You used to drink from the tap.
Actually.
Kind of.
Well, there's a certain point in my life where I was like, I'm done with this tap water.
You wouldn't have thought as carefully as you do now.
True.
Yeah, it's kind of like everybody that joins the team over here, their eyes are opened up in ways that they really almost wish that they didn't know because ignorance is bliss. So,
I wish I owned a property so I could get Connecticut system.
Well, there's plenty of properties. Apparently, you can just go up to New York and just live in somebody's house and take it over.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's a new way.
But don't do that because then you'd have to leave here and then you wouldn't be on the show again.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, so yeah, don't be a squatter.
Yeah.
If you're a squatter, don't do that. That's bad. Bad juju.
Get it together in New York.
What's on the agenda today?
Yeah, let's get back on track here. So today's agenda is actually on something we covered it before on a previous episode. And it's pretty deep and scary stuff, but there have been some recent developments, so we decided to dive back into the PFAS problem that's out there. And literally, this is one of those things that, to me, it just blows my mind that nobody's heard of this. But I like to throw the question out whenever we're giving trainings or talking with new folks about concerns that might be in their water. And I ask people, have you ever heard of PFAS? You ever heard that word? And almost every single person tells me that they have not. So it hasn't been out there too terribly much, but I can tell you that it is going to gain some huge momentum. So every single person listening, and I could probably say that with pretty good confidence, has some sort of non-stick cookware in their house. Whether you own, rent, whatever, it doesn't matter. I've got it. Moose, you've got it. You've got. If you don't have it,
I got it.
I don't anymore.
You don't? You got rid of it?
I got rid of it. I got cast iron now and stainless steel.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
cast iron is the way to go.
That I did switch over, but I eat too many eggs. I guess they do not like cast iron.
They do not like cast
Something about that Teflon coating, man.
Yeah, the Teflon is magical.
Mm-hmm. Just adds a little bit of spice.
That.
Little kick to the eggs.
That's terrible. It's that carbon atom bonded to a fluorine atom that gives the magic to why things don't stick. Mm-hmm. So today is PFAS, and the episode before we talked about it, and we talked about really what it is in a big overview. Let's just start way back at the beginning. 1946 is when DuPont came out with the Teflon cookware, and that was just a game changer. Right after the war, everybody was spending time at home, and we're building up the economy, and everybody was just having a grand old time. And now all of a sudden we've got non-stick cookware, so everybody's able to cook and not have to spend so much cleaning, and that was the beginning of it. So everybody was hooked. And it's not just an American thing, it's literally worldwide. I mean, every country, you can probably find pans floating around somewhere. But that way back 1946, so we're talking, that's 80 years, almost 80 years ago. 78 years to be exact. So, he's double checking my math.
Oh, sorry. I didn't
it's good. No, I'm glad we do have fact checkers on site, so you don't have to replay this episode and try to see if I made a boo-boo.
We're both on our phones, man.
Yeah. It's kind of scary. I got like 2 fact checkers right next to me, so I cannot screw anything up. But back in 46, they came out with the non-stick cookware, and the cookware is made with PFAS and PFOA. Which is kind of a fancy. All that means is that it's a big family of fluorinated chemicals that originally sprang from Teflon, but it includes thousands of nonstick, stain repellent, and waterproof compounds, and that is short for per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. So PFAS and PFOS is another one that's out there with it. And there's some scary things. They get measured in. It's actually terrifying because most of the things that we measure, what we call the MCL or the maximum contaminant level, those are measured in for almost everything that's out there in parts per million. So if you can imagine 1 million times smaller than a part per million, so we're talking about a part per trillion. That's what PFAS are measured in. And a part per trillion is, we try to come up with some things over the air that give you a little bit of visual. And 1 part per trillion is like 1 grain of sand in an Olympic swimming pool. It's a pretty good analogy.
1 grain of sand.
1 grain of sand. So if you got 1 grain of PFAS in a pool the size of an Olympic pool, that'd be 1 part per trillion.
Sand is very small.
Sand is very small. Exactly right. Mm-hmm. So the reason why this episode became hot right now is because today it is May 9th, 2024. Mm-hmm. And the EPA sent out an announcement. They were teasing everybody with this for years. But on April 10th, not even a month ago, they announced an MCL, which is a maximum contaminant level, of 4 parts per trillion for PFOA, PFAS, those two, and that's an individual number. So, there's thousands of these. Basically, they take a carbon atom and they stick it onto a fluorine atom.
A bunch of fluorine atoms.
Yeah, and they can have these really, really long chains of this stuff, and then at the end, it's a functional group that gets stuck on it, and that's kind of why each one of them is different. But where I'm going with this is that there's literally thousands of these compounds out there that all fall underneath these families.
Mm. And they're a forever chemical because they're so strongly bonded. You can't really dissolve it out, so
yes,
they stay forever. Yeah,
they're around for a very, very long time. I got some half-life things that we'll cover, to see how long they last in the human body. Mm-hmm. But basically, the maximum, the enforceable max on those is 4 parts per trillion on those two, and that's an individual number. So it's not like the total of PFAS and PFOA. Mm-hmm. It's actually each one of them. So if 4 is 4. 4 is bad. That's 4 grains of sand in a pool. And that is now the official really bad enforceable standard. They're going to be able to treat this just like if they find lead in your water. Mm. So,
and they're actually trying to lower it to 1. They're in the process of proposing that to the EPA. So they obviously have more studies that are showing that the harm of it, so they're trying to get ahead of it before. fines show up, you know.
Yeah, and it took quite a while for them to get down. They were at, if I remember correctly, the number before this was 70. So we went from 70 to 4.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I mean it wasn't even close to 4 before. So to get down to this number just shows you. This is one of those things. They didn't want to make a little move. They wanted to try to eliminate this.
I was about to say, that was a jump.
Yeah, that's big.
And they actually take decades, obviously, like regulation agencies, they'll take decades to actually put this up into action. So I was reading that there was a study in West Virginia where 69,000 people were exposed, and they showed issues like kidney cancer, thyroid disease, and it took them decades, the EPA decades, to get to the point where they fined DuPont for knowingly making these chemicals. So 20 years, that's like a fourth of our lifespan.
Yeah.
That's already like, you know, that passes by and we just aren't protected by it.
Yeah, we are the test subjects at that point. They're waiting to build data up, unfortunately, and now they have enough data that they made this move, and this is no light thing that they've done, because the reason they were dragging their feet on it is because of the implications of, oh my gosh, if we put this number out there, there's an estimate that there's over 100 million people that are going to be impacted by this new change almost immediately. So the population of the U.S. is a little over 300 million people. Yeah. So a third of, basically, and that's not on my cheat sheet there, but basically like a third of the population of the U.S. is immediately going to be impacted by this in a negative way. So they've put big money. They had $1 billion just for the EPA to try to get some arms around how they're going to do this. But part of the reason why they dropped it to that specific number is because it's got to be a feasible fix. Now, they have what's called an MCLG, and the G stands for goal. So even though they say 4 parts per trillion as an enforceable max, their goal is actually, they put it in there 0. 0. They want none. They don't want anybody exposed to this at all. But if they put 0, then 0 is almost impossible to hit. So they got to put something that they can actually take action and get real results. Because at the end of the day, if you create a panic but you don't have a plan and how to deal with it, then you've just got a panic. That's just bad. But since 1999, they've been measuring 12 PFAS in blood serum, which is the clear portion of the blood, and these were folks that were all over 12 years or 12 years and older, and there was this survey done. It's called the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, and so it was an official thing, and basically what they found was that the serum level gives them the ability to estimate, if they find PFAS in that, it gives them the ability to estimate the amount in the body total. So it's kind of like an indicator. But they said that CDC scientists found 4 of the PFAS families. The PFAS with an O, PFAS, PFOA, PFHXS, better known as perfluorohexane sulfonic acid, in case you were curious, and PFNA, which is perfluoro non-anionic acid.
Perfluoronoic
Noic, not ionic, yeah. Nanoic. God, I can't say that one for some reason. Next episode I'll have it mastered. But basically all those scary ones, they found that in the serum of nearly all the people that were tested.
That's scary stuff.
Yeah. So pretty much everybody's got this.
And I was reading that it doesn't even go away. Like if a mother has it in her system, it's going to go in the umbilical cord to the baby. Before the baby's even born, they're already at risk for kidney cancer, liver, different types of thyroid issues, like. So it just puts them at a disadvantage, and in breast milk too. Yeah. So imagine just like having it in your body, and then you unknowingly are just feeding your kid this stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty much everywhere. But yeah, to what you just said, kind of the mechanism is that these man-made chemicals are generally well absorbed after they are ingested. So you eat it, it gets absorbed into your body, and then it gets distributed from your blood to the organs and the tissues that receive high blood flow, like liver, kidney, lung, heart, skin, testes, brain, bone, and spleen, just to name some of the big ones there. Those, when I read that list, I was like, geez, that's that pretty much covers all the important stuff. So yeah, bad stuff. And you talked about, the fact that it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
There's a table that and they break this table down. I don't know how they did that, but obviously, kind of to your point, we're all test subjects at this point because they're trying to build up data. And there's a column in here for humans, and then we got non-human primates and rats and mice. So this is data that's all kind of figured in on, no matter what kind of alive thing you are. It's got some projections here, but the half-life, which is if you get this stuff in your body, how long it takes for your body to kind of get rid of it. The PFOA, that has a range of 2.1 to 10.1 years. So if you get some in you right now, in 10 years, half of it is still in you. In 20 years, 75% has been eliminated, but you still have 25% of it. And that's just what you take in right now. So it's super important that anybody listening to this, try to make some changes immediately and start that clock. Because that's the PFOA. I mean, a 10-year half-life. The PFAS.
PFOS.
Yeah, PFOS to clarify. That one can have a half-life that ranges up to 27 years. So that's really friggin' long.
Yeah.
28. Ethan, what are you 20? What are you 20?
25.
25.
25.
Yeah.
Man, I feel
So
old
shit,
today.
you could have it in your body. Your
probably
entire
do.
life. I hope
For-
not. God forbid.
Well, what you got when you were born
Yeah.
might be half gone by now.
Yeah.
Hope you never took in another drop after birth.
Imagine that. Like,
Yeah, that's really sobering when you think about it. But there's another one in here, the PFHXS, which is that one that I'm going to butcher it again because I'm a glutton for punishment. The perfluorohexane sulfonic acid. Oh, I like that one. I can pronounce that one pretty easily. That one has a half-life of 35 years.
Up to 35 years. That's crazy.
35.
And this is all after, these figures are all after it's already binded to the receptors in your body. So it's already had its fun in your body, and then it's like, your body's finally like, yeah, we need to get rid of this stuff. It's messing us up.
Yeah, just naturally getting rid of it, just maybe by accident more than anything else.
Yeah.
But, yeah, kind of scary stuff. Really scary stuff. But that's where we stand now. Now there's some big... those big developments with the EPA, they're going to definitely be cracking down. You're going to hear tons about this. The best way that you can protect yourself is to get a reverse osmosis drinking water system that preferably has been certified to be able to take this out. And this may sound salesy, but we have that product. So reach out to us or your local Connecticut dealer because ours, actually because of, let's just say, certain situations, it has been certified for these contaminants. So
Absolutely.
if you want something that you know has been tested and know that that you can trust your health and your life with, that's the way to go.
Because the major exposure pathways are water and food ingestion, dust ingestion, hand and mouth transfer. So, water is something that we're made 71% out of. So the more that you can filter that out and get that stuff out of there, the better shape you're in.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, dust. Dust is one of those. Don't eat a lot of dust accidentally. So,
Dust pie.
maybe I hate to say it, but maybe wearing masks for a year might have helped to keep people from sucking in some PFAS.
Just eternally wear a respirator.
Yeah, well, there's still people out there that I run into regularly that have masks on, so they're protected now. So we were talking earlier before the show started here, and I posed the question because I'm older, and I said, "You guys have obviously had new carpet in somewhere where you lived along your life," and I was shocked that they have not. So I'm the only one in the room that's ever had new carpet. So I know there's people listening to this that have had new carpet before. And one of the first things you do with new carpet is you vacuum it up, just to make sure that you clean up whatever the installers might have tracked in there and any loose things that might fibers and stuff like that. But after that point, you're kind of in this room and you smell it and you're like, it's kind of like a new car. You're just like, oh, this smells great. And you succumb to the urge to just lay on the carpet because it's clean and it's comfortable. It's got pad underneath it. Well, that carpet has been treated with a lot of stain protection, and turns out that you're exposing yourself to some fresh stuff that may transfer onto you. You may end up getting in your mouth. But the dust that's still on that brand new fresh carpet, that is also a big problem with contamination. So, yeah, I just bring that up. That's kind of a...
Don't lay on your new carpet.
Don't lay on your new carpet.
Yeah,
tempting.
Wash them.
Yeah, it's tempting. Well, even if you wash it, it's still
there.
It's still coming off.
That speaks to the point that we have a note here that at least 475 industrial facilities may be discharging PFAS into the environment, yet there are currently no restrictions on industrial PFAS discharges under the Federal Clean Water Act or the Clean Air Act. So,
yeah, that's kind of
scary,
kind of eye-opening. Yeah. That there is a lot of contamination that happens every single day. This stuff, it doesn't just go into the water. Water is really the place where we hear about it the most, but yeah, it can go up into the air. There was a movie, The Devil We Know. Did you ever see that one?
I think I've heard you talking about it.
Yeah, I probably mentioned it because that was years ago. This was before PFAS really became a thing. I'm talking probably like 7 years ago, before anybody even heard of that term really around here. But it's kind of a like a documentary, so to speak, about how the whole PFAS problem really was identified as a big problem over in West Virginia. So if you can still find it, it used to be out there on Netflix. I'm sure you could find it on YouTube or something. But The Devil We Know. Where was I going with that?
The industrial.
Oh, yeah. So basically, that talked about it talked about the environmental issues, and that was an eye-opening one because it was getting into the waterways, the ponds and the streams from the factory over there. And it was killing cows. I remember that.
Wow. From the runoff?
Yeah, the farmers' cows were all like getting cancers and tumors and dying and stuff like that. God. Yeah, and that just it doesn't go away. It actually gets sucked up into plants. Oh, I actually have something specific about plants in here. Where did that go? Plants. Did you see it? Nope. Plants.
No.
Oh, we're getting derailed here. Don't make us have a break. No, I didn't get that far in there. There was different different species of these things had different levels of.
I saw it.
I think it's on the next. It's right in there.
Okay.
No, over here on your page. Moose, you're falling down.
Huh? It's not there. I don't see it.
It's under plants. See, Moose has his own little cheat sheet here. No, we aren't editing shit. This is the podcast. Man.
This is raw.
Come on, this is real. We're going to put some pressure on you.
What about the plants?
There it is, right there. Plants. See, I highlighted it.
Oh, shoot.
Short term. There we go. See?
Short chain PFAS also can be more effectively taken up by plants. So the difference between short and long chain causes bioaccumulation, so it can actually be sucked into the plants. And
Yes. And how many plants do we eat?
how many? Yeah,
A lot of plants.
And we don't ever know. Nobody's going to do the testing on those plants for you. They barely do farm raised beef.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And they're not going to test the water. I mean, they're not going to test the plants on the farm.
Yeah. So basically, they've got these things can break out into what they call long chain PFAS and short chain PFAS. And there were a little bit of differences between the long chain and the short chain one. The long chain was the kind of the first version of it, and then the industries kind of turned to these structurally similar replacements. But they were saying, hey, that they marketed them as safer alternatives.
Lower toxicity.
Yeah,
Albeit there's still toxicity, but just a lower toxicity.
Yeah, they're presumed lower toxicity, not just the fact. It wasn't even a fact at that point. They were just presuming that the shorter chain had less toxicity, and
then research demonstrated that wasn't even true.
Exactly right.
It's messed up because then it probably took like 10 years for them to come to the point of using the short chain, and then another few years.
They're like, oh, it's just as bad.
Disprove it, yeah.
So the research. Let's see here. The bioaccumulation of some of the short chain ones, the ones that they supposedly said were safer, it occurs in humans and animals for sure, and fish. This was interesting because fish suggested that they can do so even more than they absorb the long chain compounds. So they're actually worse on fish. Kind of crazy. And then you already told everybody about the short chain can be more effectively taken up by plants, which of course we like to eat plants. And the animals that we eat plants.
And being that the half-life of this stuff is, up to 35 years, like even if an animal dies, say they disintegrate into the ground, the PFAS isn't going anywhere. The bones will probably dissolve before the PFAS does. Yeah. And so where does that go? It goes down into the soil, eventually goes down into the aquifers, and then goes straight to your well. You know what I mean? And so, or your pond water, whatever it may be, and it's just
we got to take that stuff out.
Yeah.
So, that's some bad stuff there. It reminds me of a story. It's story time, guys.
Yeah. Story time.
So I may have mentioned it before, but if I did, it's so good I got to mention it again. One of the areas we get called in to do some PFAS fixing, and this was before the latest limits got announced. But one of the places we got called in to do a site assessment on was the well was contaminated. It was already tested, and we were brought in to kind of come up with a fix because they wanted the residents to be safe. And as I'm scoping this place out, it was a farm, not really a farm like 1,000 acres or anything like that, but it was a farmhouse, and they had cows, and probably less than 25 cows, I want to say. Small chicken coop. They were selling eggs and things at the farmers market and whatnot, but the cows would actually be brought in for slaughter when they were ready. And I'm taking this all in because I grew up in Iowa on a farm, and I'm thinking, what are they? We've got contaminated water going to the resident. What did the cows and the chickens drink? So I asked that question to the homeowner. I was like, hey, where did they get their water from? Thinking that there may be, a creek or something that I didn't know about. And she just points at the well, and I'm like, oh. That's so we were chaperoned, I guess is the best way to say it, with the folks that were actually, I don't want to say too many details about where they were from, but basically they were taking this all in from a distance because they're assessing what we're assessing, And I turned to one of them and I said, "Did you hear that?" And he kind of looked at me and his eyes got big and he said, "Oh my gosh." We got hired on that one because I told him, I said, "Look, you don't know the full impact of this. We need to put a treatment system in that can not only protect the people,
but the animals,
but all the animals and the meat and the eggs."
And that was being distributed.
To us, to me,
inadvertently,
to you, at a
poisoning.
farmer's market.
Yeah.
Like when you think that it's like, the best fresh eggs in the world, you don't
Check
know
the
they're
law.
loaded with PFAS. And the meat, that meat goes into the meat, the livestock, the meat industry, and who knows where it ends up getting shipped out from there. So yeah, that was the story that I wanted to throw in there, that this is one of those, this is big because it's not just your drinking water. This is the water that our animals and our plants are eating. So thank goodness they're investing $1 billion to try to come up with some strategies here. Scary stuff, but we're gonna take a break so that we don't all cough all over each other here. Words from our sponsors. All right, and this is your sponsor speaking. We're in it because we love what we do, but we're also in it because we love growing the Connecticut family. So if you're in the Richmond, Virginia area, or any area, we just want you to get your water fixed. And Connecticut is by far the best product that's out there. If it wasn't the best, I wouldn't have left a successful corporate career with a big box store to do this full time for the rest of my life, and that's what I do. So that's the word from the sponsor, and back to the show. All right, welcome back. Hopefully the sponsors were good to you.
I like that sponsor.
We're our sponsors.
Yeah, we are the sponsors.
Is that us?
It probably is us because we're not at that point. We don't have what do they call them, Patreons yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. So if you want to be our first Patreon, reach out. We will gladly support the folks that support us.
Alright, so we're gonna kind of go into some health related stuff with PFAS. We kind of talked about on a greater scale what happens with PFAS in general in industries and society, and how the EPA and other regulatory agencies are dealing with it. But why are they dealing with it? We're going to cover in the health section. So the first thing, I guess, is the biggest thing that is a biomarker or something that you can tell from your health or your tests that'll show you if you've been exposed to PFAS is hepatotoxicity. And hepatotoxicity is toxicity inside of your liver, hence hepato. And so
translate for us, Moose.
A large-scale study on exposure to PFAS in humans and rodents showed consistent evidence of liver damage. So PFAS is known to accumulate in the body tissues, such as the tissues in the liver, and they started wondering why people who aren't alcoholics are getting liver disease. Being that obviously, a lot of liver disease is caused by alcoholism and things of that nature. So they studied people who weren't alcoholics, and they found that PFAS was a correlating factor in the rise of liver disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
I know how they did it.
How do they do it?
Because how many times have you been to the bar and you've seen a rat having a drink with you? Never, right?
No.
Right. See? So
I had the pleasure yet.
Completely threw everybody here. So they did some health effects found in animals during following exposure to PFOA in this case. And one of the effects was hepatocellular necrosis in rats. And rats are not known for drinking a lot of liquor. So they probably were like, oh, maybe not everybody with liver disease is an alcoholic.
Unless those rats have a secret speakeasy that they're going to.
Probably do.
After they terrorize the city.
Figured I'd derail you on that one a little bit. But yeah, I think we got the answer from rats on that. They realized it probably was something other than alcohol.
And then they kind of went to humans and were like, okay, why are these...
We got similar things going on.
Yeah. Rats are really similar to humans in lab tests and things like that, which is why they use them. So,
but they also had histological alterations in their testes and their ovaries. Just like people.
Reproductive issues. The U.S. is not making as much babies as China.
Oh my.
Side note. There might be a reason for that. But yeah, so they found elevated levels as a biomarker, like I said, of a liver enzyme called ALT. And that's something that if you get a basic, CBC and lab test done, you'll find that you get an AST level and an ALT level. And a rise, say for example, you're not an alcoholic, you're a relatively healthy individual and your ALT levels are just skyrocketed. And the doctors are just like, we just don't know. And they start asking you if you're an alcoholic or if you have other things you might be taking, Advil, acetaminophen, Tylenol, things like that. And you're like, no. Then it's probably time to test your water and see if you've been having PFAS contamination. And the sooner that you do that, the sooner you'll be able to live through that half-life of it and it not affect you anymore.
I got something to jump into.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the ALT and the AST, and for most people listening, you probably have no idea what those things are.
Yeah.
So I'm in my 50s now, and before we moved down here to Richmond, I was back up in the Midwest, actually living outside of Chicago. And then when we were up there, I was in my 40s, actually late 30s and early 40s. So we were on public water. We didn't have a well up there. So all of our water came out of Lake Michigan. So the reason I'm telling you all this story is because I remember, and screw it, it's personal, but it's one of these things I need to get out there and just kind of share. So when I was working with the job that I was, they offered some life insurance. And I was only, like I said, like 38, something like that. And so I'm like, yeah, sure, I need to get life insurance. And then I said, let me, I got to take care of the family here. Well, they came out to do blood work. And I get this quote back after they had done the blood work, and it was like triple what I thought it was going to be. And I remember calling that insurance company up. I'm like, what the heck kind of crazy rate is that? And they said, well, it's not a bad rate considering your liver is failing. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Oh my gosh.
So they're like, oh, you didn't know? I'm like, I don't know anything that you're talking about. This is a true story. So this started this saga where they were trying, and I had ALT and AST and all the other crazy liver enzymes are all just freaking off the charts. Like if 0 to 100 is normal, I was at like 5,000. I mean, it wasn't even close to being on the chart.
Wow.
And I went to the doctor. It's funny because you were just talking about the whole alcohol thing, and the doctor that I had known for years at that point was like, "So, Paul, how many drinks do you have?" And I'm looking at him, I'm not understanding. Maybe I was just naive at the time. I'm like, I didn't put two and two together. I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, how many alcoholic drinks do you have in a day? I'm like, I probably have, I don't know, 5 in a month. And he was looking at me, he gave me that side look, and he's like, no, you can tell me. And then I realized what was going on. I'm like, oh, no. We need to be looking at something else.
Yeah.
It's not an alcohol-related problem. Yeah. But long story short, after drinking my water, my levels are all back down to good now. That and exercise and watching what I'm eating. Cause
I can vouch for that. I saw his lab tests.
Yeah, they're officially in the normal range on liver. So, but it kind of makes me wonder because at the time we got our water out of Lake Michigan, and that was, everybody says, oh, I got the greatest water in the world. Well, Lake Michigan is a huge friggin' lake, but it's actually, there's a military base that butts up to it that I found out within the last couple of years has just been spewing PFAS
Wow.
out.
That
and
is
it's
huge.
into the lake. So it makes me wonder, now that you say all this, I wonder if I had some sort of PFAS contamination.
How many years ago was that?
That was 15.
Shoot, it might be half out your system.
That's kind of what I'm hoping. The half-life is working for me here. But that's one of those things that if anybody's got any liver problems and they can't really figure out what might be causing it, they went as far as to do a liver biopsy on me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, have you ever had one?
No.
No.
They didn't put you under.
We're on a podcast, so I'll tell you, fuck you if you try to put me on another one of those. Actually, that was the most miserable experience. And I know I just said the bad word, but we're on a podcast. So
I'm not considering
We're special.
So,
now.
yeah, that was a horrible process. They basically shoved this gigantic syringe in through your stomach area and shove it up, and they take bites out of your liver.
I've seen these surgeries live at the hospital.
Was the person knocked out, or were they conscious?
They're knocked out, and they.
I was conscious.
No.
Yes, so that's why I was wondering, because if you've seen it,
Whoa.
I was completely laying there like.
They just numbed it or something.
Yeah, they're like, okay, we're get ready, and I'm then kind of brace, and then you hear the click as this thing takes a chunk out of your liver.
Holy crap! Like through your body, they put.
Oh yeah, it's like stuck in through right where your ribs come.
The camera, the little
well,
camera
they
there.
did it. They had one lunatic had had this rod, like a big hypodermic type, but it was huge because it had these little bitey teeth in it, like a little shark.
Forceps, yeah.
And they were bringing it in, and they were using ultrasound to see where it was in relation to the liver, so they weren't taking bites out of my heart or something else. And I remember they took, I think, 4 bites. And it wasn't all in the same spot, because they're like, oh, we're gonna go over here and take another one, and we're gonna go over here.
Alive and conscious or anything?
I was completely.
What did they put you on morphine? What did they do?
I don't even. They didn't give me shit.
What about the pain? What about the pain?
What about the pain?
Yo,
pretty much.
That's pretty crazy.
They were like, oh, one more.
Story.
And I said, and they said, can we do one more? And I remember saying, if you're gonna do it, you better do it now, because the next chance is gonna be in the morgue. I said, I am never doing this again. That was the most horrific process I think I've ever had to go through. And then they're like, okay, you can't move for like 2 days because you might bleed internally, and your liver it can bleed. And then, if it bleeds uncontrollably, then you might die.
Wait, but I just don't, I've never seen a,
all this because of friggin' PFAS.
Oh my goodness.
No, I'm just speculating.
Could
possibly.
Yeah, well, it's because I was trying to figure out because of that whole life insurance thing.
Right.
So I got to the end of it, and they were like, we can't find anything on the biopsy. You just have what we call fatty liver.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean?
And you're not an alcoholic.
No, I wasn't an alcoholic. And I'm actually in halfway decent shape. I was going to the gym a lot. And so it didn't make any sense. But yeah, I had fatty liver. Retrospect, yeah. It makes things that make you go,
You kind of make the connections. I'm sure in 15 years, Lake Michigan people are going to be
talking
about the stuff that you're talking about once the knowledge catches up.
Hopefully people will share this with somebody that may have had, a fatty liver diagnostic or something like horrible like that. But not saying that that's what it was, because that would be just speculation.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that the situation is a little suspicious. Mm-hmm. So, anyway, didn't mean to derail your stuff, but you were talking about that. That was exactly my situation of a non-alcoholic
fatty liver disease.
Yep.
Interesting.
What's next?
Yeah, I mean, hepatotoxicity definitely. I mean, you need your liver for everything. People who have liver disease, it just messes them up for the rest of their lives. So, definitely keep an eye on that. Exposure to PFAS. Going on to kind of more about what it does in the younger population as well. Exposure to PFAS may delay the onset of puberty in girls, which is because of the hormones and the effect the PFAS has on the hormones. And that can have negative long-term health outcomes such as higher incidence of breast cancer, renal disease, and thyroid disease. Not fun at all. And then exposure to PFAS in adolescents, regardless of age, was linked to a decrease in bone mineral density over time. And that can lead to osteoporosis and other bone diseases. This study also added that previous research mostly focused on older populations has linked PFAS to reduce bone mineral density as well. So obviously at the time, they didn't test them longitudinally, but they found that you can trace it back and see that people who have lower bone density in their older age were probably exposed to PFAS in their younger age.
Yes. Yeah. And I have some, you're talking about PFAS, PFAS.
Yep.
I actually have another one of those health effects in animals with PFOS. So very similar. Basically, they talk about skeletal malformations and anomalies, testicular lesions, and, skeletal anomalies in mice and in rats, and decreased neonatal survival rates. So...
and that's just one of the offshoots of what PFAS is PFOS. So that's just one of the branches on that family tree of PFAS. So imagine what the other stuff can do as well.
And neurodevelopmental effects.
Gosh.
It hits everything.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a wonder that this stuff has been allowed to just fester.
Well, they're now aware enough that a month ago they passed new limits.
Yeah, and they're trying to push it even further to kind of eradicate it, but that's going to be a long journey, isn't it?
Yeah, and that I don't think it's feasible. They're going from 0 to 100 already.
Yeah,
you're talking about going from 0 to light speed.
Yeah,
if you try to eliminate it, I don't think that's realistically possible right now. They first got to try to get it under control and then throttle it way back.
And their main, and just kind of going to water on that topic, their main way of doing the new regulation that they're proposing to take it from 4 nanograms per liter to 1 parts per million or nanograms
parts per trillion.
Parts per trillion, sorry.
Same as nanograms per liter.
Yep. So from 4 to 1, what they're trying to do in the proposition is install systems at the municipalities that just take out the PFAS, which is what we do with our reverse osmosis system. So until they do that, they're obviously aiming to do that, but until they do that, who's going to take care of your health? Who's going to protect your family? Who's going to protect your home from being contaminated with PFAS? That's only you. It's all in our own hands, and our health is in our own hands. And until the government catches up and does something about it on a larger scale, we're in charge of that. So, something to keep in mind, obviously.
And we do have treatment options available. And when I say we, I mean us here in this my business, our business. But basically, if you're just talking about general, like let's say you're nowhere near Richmond, but you're now terrified of this stuff being in your water, what can you do to protect yourself? The first thing I would say, do not buy any shit off the internet. Yeah. The internet is only there to make a quick buck and get the heck back out, and their qualifications, their credentials, their certifications usually mean nothing once they go out of business.
Yep.
So don't mess around with your family's health on a deal. Don't go to Costco or Walmart and pick up the cheapest thing you could find.
Or Amazon and buy something made foreign.
Don't buy any of that garbage.
That could possibly have PFAS in its materials that they're using.
Well, I remember talking about this in the last PFAS one, but we had we're part of 12 offices, and one of the offices really does a lot of work with PFAS remediation. And they actually did a system in a house on what we call the point of entry, so that in theory, everything after that point should be free of PFAS. And then they went back in, and usually it takes about 2 weeks just to clean out all the crap that's already in the plumbing system and kind of get some good readings in the house. Well, thank goodness they also tested in the house, because they had levels over 400 in the house
Jeez,
after a treatment system.
After a treatment system.
After we put a treatment system in. And then, of course, this was the red light, like, what the hell is going on?
Mm-hmm.
Then they find that the customer had bought one of these online systems and put it in himself.
Oh, wow.
Before they had put the real system in there. And what it was doing is it had collected and it was now dumping
all the
contaminants.
Yep.
So he was actually poisoning his family. And don't poison your family. That's never a good idea. But don't buy anything online. Get a professional. Get somebody that's licensed. Get somebody that's a real business person.
Yeah. I mean, you look at it like we look at safety ratings on our cars before we buy them. You're not going to buy a car that's made down the street or something like that, or made online. Like, nobody builds their own cars because of safety, right? And so don't do that with your water. You're dealing with something that's so intimate to you and your family and your health, your home. Take the right steps, make an investment, and actually get something that'll last you, and actually do what it's supposed to do. We see so many people that just get stuff online or at department stores and stuff like that, and home improvement stores, and then we have to come in and fix the issue after, and they end up wasting like thousands of dollars on those products. Because they try to take a shortcut on something you're not supposed to take a shortcut on other things. Take a shortcut on your clothes. Go buy cheaper clothes from Walmart or, something like that. Don't take a shortcut on your health, and go buy a system at Walmart for your water, right? It's something that needs to be professionally dealt with, and that's what we do. That's why we're in business.
That is so true. Oh, and if you were thinking, I'll just buy bottled water. We found a little interesting nugget that I think you'll really find interesting, and I don't even need to skim to the page.
I mean,
there is no regulation on PFAS in bottled water, just none.
None.
So if you think that's the safe answer, that is not the safe answer.
And bottled water is completely unregulated since 1975.
Completely, it's a voluntary
market.
It's a voluntary set of basic standards that they all agree to abide by, but they all internally test their own stuff. It doesn't go off to a third-party lab or anything like that. So don't get some cheap stuff. I'm hesitant to bring up this phrase that sometimes we can use, because a professional system is kind of like, it's like sushi. Good water treatment equipment is not cheap, and cheap water treatment equipment is not good.
Yeah,
it's just that way.
Yeah.
And when a lot of folks see the price tag of a professional system that's professionally installed, that's going to protect them for a long period of time reliably, we get the comment, "Oh, that's expensive." And there's one guy that I just have a hard time saying it, but he says it. He says it's cheaper than cancer. Yeah. And I lost half of my family already to cancer, so believe me, I'm very sensitive to that. I don't take that as a joke. But I actually have used that exact same phrase because the cost of cancer is ridiculous. It's financial, it's emotional, you're never going to get your loved ones back. And a lot of families that go through that are financially devastated. So it sounds crass and shitty to say it, but it's cheaper than cancer. Absolutely. And at this point, I feel like here I'm getting up on my soapbox. I feel like America. I feel like America doesn't want to really be accountable for their own decisions. People need to realize that the government and other people are not just going to come in here and fix all of your problems. You need to be proactive and develop a plan, because these are crazy times. You don't know what's in the water. This just proves it, that stuff's been out there for 78 years, contaminating and causing cancers and everything, and they're just now cracking down on it. So don't be one of those people. Take financing, rental, do something.
Do something.
Just do something, because you do not want this to impact you. You're never going to get your health back, not the way it was before. So it's not that hard to fix, but I'm going to get back off the soapbox because
I mean, and it's true. Paul went through it personally, and that's why he developed that passion for it. He doesn't speak on it a lot, so I'm surprised he even spoke on it during the podcast. But it's absolutely true. Like, you take those preventative measures preventatively. You don't take them after the fact. And Paul can probably attest to it as much as anybody. That that's a cost that he'd probably anybody who's gone through a situation where their family members had cancer would probably go back and do any type of preventative measure, no matter how much it costs. And we're just blinded by the glitter and the glamour and things like that. So we buy things like Gucci bags and spend our money on that rather than spending it on something that's going to protect us and our loved ones from actually dealing with that devastation.
Yep. Yeah, that's crazy good information, and hopefully some without getting all preachy there. Hopefully everybody kind of took that to heart, that this it's interesting, but it's terrifying, and you got to do something to protect you and the ones that you love.
It's a very deep episode.
Very deep.
Yeah.
Deep.
I got shivers when he was talking about that live. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's one of those. Thank goodness we weren't videotaped.
Yeah,
that would have made Joe Rogan jealous. So,
and kind of piggybacking off what Paul said, the International Agency for Research on Cancer, they concluded that PFOA, which is another branch of PFAS, is possibly carcinogenic to humans, and that there was suggestive evidence that increases in testicular and kidney cancer have been observed in highly exposed humans. So this isn't just something that we're just speculating. These are actual studies that have been done, and they're only going to get more thorough as time progresses, and they have the wherewithal to actually treat these problems in greater society. So.
Yeah, and I actually, for anybody that's wondering, is this one of those suspected causes of cancer? No. This is like some proven.
Yeah.
I've actually got from the EPA, so you can go to the EPA.gov, and it's under news releases. But if you were to punch in, let's see, doesn't really have any detail. First ever drink, just talks about first ever drinking water standard, but it right in there says exposure to PFAS has been linked to deadly cancers, impacts to the liver and heart, and immune and developmental damage to infants and children. So
absolutely,
right there, black and white.
Yep, and states are catching up. I mean, California is the first to require utilities to test their tap water for PFAS and inform the customers, but it won't be the last. As time progresses, they're going to get closer to, most states are going to get closer to that standard.
Yeah. So, yeah, you just said California.
Mm-hmm.
There's other ones there: Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. They've already have proposed or already enacted limits way before this EPA thing came out. But Washington and Maine have already banned PFAS in food packaging. At least 5 states so far have restricted the use of PFAS-based firefighting foam, which is a huge contaminator of water sources, because, of course, airports, they're doing their practice spray downs or a real situation. Gets on the runway, rain comes down, washes it into the ditch, where ditch goes into the water we drink. Mm-hmm. So it's just that simple. It can absolutely get just about everywhere. There are some estimates in terms of public drinking water systems that in 49 states, over 19 million people are already contaminated. And Michigan, it's kind of interesting. Michigan has the most PFAS sites. And remember I was talking about Lake Michigan?
Lake Michigan?
Well, it's called Lake Michigan because Michigan is the eastern border of that lake. So, yeah, it's not a coincidence. So Lake Michigan is all messed up, and Lake Michigan is actually most of the drinking water for a huge chunk of the Midwest. Chicago, Milwaukee, millions of people rely on that. But anyway, just between the public water supplies and private water supplies and military bases, up to 110 million Americans could be drinking PFAS contaminated water.
Absolutely.
So
that's just 110 million. Like
110
put
million.
that into
That's
perspective.
It's exactly a third. I think the population of the U.S. last I checked was 330 some million.
Yep. The Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Control, which is a division of the Department of Health and Human Services, concluded that the minimal risk level for PFAS should be 7 to 10 times lower than the level previously recommended. Now, obviously, as you know, this is going to be a slow process. So,
yeah, and they
definitely.
actually just hit that. That 7 to 10 times lower than 70 is about the 4 mark.
4 mark. Yeah.
So yeah, so that's, and we're at 4 grains of PFAS in an Olympic-sized pool. So
yeah,
scary stuff.
yeah,
Watch that crazy movie, The Devil We Know.
yeah.
Try to check that one out. It'll be an eye opener, but hopefully everybody got something out of this. It wasn't a really salesy type podcast. This was all about info and nerding out and giving you some medical terminology you can impress folks at the next cocktail party.
Absolutely. And you know, not all of our audience is going to be our local listeners, so we're just trying to urge people to take that action. You know, a PhD at the EWG Environmental Water Group, based off of that EPA study, they said that we urge everybody, Americans across the country, to take immediate steps to protect themselves and their families. The best way you can do that is by filtering your water for PFAS, and so no matter where you are, whether you're across the globe or in America, just get your water tested. Make sure that you do something to avoid drinking tap water or just well water straight, and you know, take care of yourself and your family.
Yeah, and just a correction, it's not Environmental Water Group, it's Environmental Working Group.
Working Group, sorry.
Just want to catch that before somebody
fact
comments.
check. Reverse Uno card.
We try to give you real accurate stuff here. We're not making up anything. So we appreciate the loyalty. If you're a first time listener, please subscribe and give us a thumbs up and all that good stuff, because we love what we do. We try to make every episode unique and different. And if you're commuting and listening, travel safe.
Yep.
We'll catch you next time.
Follow us on Connecticut Richmond on Instagram. We'll be posting reels to kind of give you a visual example of this stuff too. So,
yeah. Cool stuff. All right. Thanks, folks. Catch you next time.
see ya.